pleasure to be here with you guys and to bring the Lord's message. It's always my honor. Thank you all. So let's go to the Lord in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time. Lord, we thank you for your salvation, Lord, for sending Jesus, for being there with us, for helping us all throughout our way, Lord. May we always choose you. For in your precious name we pray and we ask. And everyone said? Amen. Amen. All right, well, let's stand. Get everything going here. All right. Yep, it's on the screen. It's in your hymnal too, but I don't remember. 546 if you'd rather have the hymn. Whenever you're ready, Marlena. with us. It's kind of a hectic thing. She was coming, she wasn't coming, and she comes. So, but I'm glad she's here. As always, Marlene is going to sing special for us, so
I'm only 4 feet 11, but I'm going to heaven, and it makes me feel 10 feet tall. They say I'm not too strong, but I'm known all along. I've got the greatest power of all. He lifts me up, makes me shout. To Jesus, that's what I'm all about. I'm only 4 feet 11, but I'm going to heaven, and it makes me feel 10 feet tall. Marlena, they say, how can you preach to people who are old enough to be your mom and dad? Well, I say, have you ever stopped to think they had the very same problems I've had? Marlena, they say, how can you preach to people who reach down to pat you on the head? Well, I say, we should all be like children, reaching up to Him instead. I'm only 4 feet 11, but I'm going to heaven, and it makes me feel 10 feet tall. They say I'm not too strong, but I'm known all alone. I got the greatest power of all. He lifts me up, makes me shout. Home to Jesus, that's what I'm all about. I'm only 4 feet 11, but I'm going to heaven, and it makes me feel 10 feet tall. Marlena, they say, how can you preach to people, the children that are older than you? Well, I say, just how old must you be before the love of the Lord can come through? Marlena, they say, how can you preach to people who have known Him since 1924? Well, I say, I've been hearing some knocking, and I'm old enough to open the door. I'm only 4 feet 11, but I'm going to heaven, and it makes me feel 10 feet tall. They say I'm not too strong, but I'm known all along. I got the greatest power of all. He lifts me up, makes me shout. Home to Jesus, that's what I'm all about. I'm only 4 feet 11, but I'm going to heaven, and it makes me feel 10 feet tall. I'm only 4 feet 11, but I'm going to heaven, and it makes me feel about 10 feet tall. Oh yeah. Thank you.
If you couldn't tell, that is my little Eli's favorite song. I was kind of recent. I don't know if that's the song she had picked out, but she just did it because she heard me talking to her mother. We were listening to that song on the way over in the car at the church this morning, and Eli and Matt were both singing, and he loves that particular song. So, but it's a joy to get to hear him sing Christian songs like that, and know them and memorize them. As a parent, I know y'all can understand where I'm coming from, most of us. So, before we get to the message, we're having another video we've been doing of our shoeboxes. Remember, they're due 2 weeks from today, the 24th. We've already got 3 turned in. You can just put them up here on the top pew, or the front pew. If you haven't got the stuff to do it, the boxes are out back, or out in the lobby there on the table. Please feel free to take 1, 2, or however many. That's what they're there for. So please take what you need to fill your boxes. The stuff to fill them with is on a little envelope, and then you tear it off. Whether you want to do a boy or girl, then you mark it, which age group you want to do, and then you put in. You can put in school supplies. You can put in hygiene products. You just can't put in liquids and pastes and soap and stuff like that. And if you do candy, it's better to do hard candy than chocolate, because that stuff will melt. Because it's just going thousands of miles in different directions to different countries. It's a very good ministry, and we try to partake in it each year. If you feel like the Lord is putting it on your heart, it's not an expensive ministry. You can only fill a box up for 30 or less. You can go anywhere you want, Dollar Store, Walmart, Dollar Tree, to do this. It's a good ministry that you're reaching people all around the world. This is how we help fulfill that commission that we're told to go into Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and then the rest of the world. And this is one of the ways that we get to help just be a part of that. What Jesus is wanting us to do. This time, Heather, are you taking the kids? If you're wanting to go to Children's Church, Heather's going over to Fellowship Hall at this time. All right.
The children's church time. Can we help when it comes?
Okay. Turn in your scriptures to the book of Nehemiah. We're going to be in several different chapters of Nehemiah, but we're going to be in the book of Nehemiah today. We're going to be talking about a concept we don't all like to talk about. We're going to be talking about obeying the Lord today and what that might mean for us as Christians or lost people. Charles Stanley, and I know y'all don't know who that is, but he's a preacher. No, I'm just teasing. I know y'all know who Charles Stanley is. I'm just joking. Anyway, Charles Stanley says, when the Lord challenges you to do something that you feel is beyond your abilities, you have two options. You can focus on yourself and withdraw in disbelief, or you can focus on Christ and proceed in triumph. It's really a matter of faith. God would never ask you to do something without empowering you to accomplish it. So, when we are thinking about choices, how we're going to react, what we're going to do, as people, whether it's the act of following Christ and God in our daily life as Christians, as believers, or if it's as a lost person, as we're going to get to in a minute, that needs to make that one best decision, Christ ain't going to ever call us to something that He isn't going to be able to work through the Spirit to help us, to empower, as Dr. Stanley says, for us to accomplish whatever we're trying to do to obey Him. So we have two options. And that's what we're going to see. Everyone is faced with this choice. Do I obey the Lord or don't I? That's what it comes down to. Most of our life falls into these two categories. Obey the Lord or not. For the Christian, when it comes down to obeying the Lord or not obeying the Lord, are we willing? This is a little bit of a list, but it's not an exhaustive list. I'm sure there's others you can put in here. But are we willing to stay surrendered to Jesus and His authority and His love? Are we willing to stay surrendered to Him, realizing that we are completely dependent upon Christ? Are we willing to serve when needed? Are we willing to serve when needed? Serve His body, serve with the body, reaching out to the lost and to our community? Are we willing to surrender to the call of missions, preaching, pastoring, or some other sort of ministry if He has placed that call on our life? Are we willing to make it right when we do wrong? Are we willing to repent when we sin? Are we willing to rededicate and redo when we stray from God's path? Are we willing to take a righteous stand when we need it? So these are some things, some decisions that we have to choose and make. Are we willing to obey the Lord, depending upon Him, as we obey? Because you can't do this on your own. Just like with salvation, that was a choice we had to make, but we sure couldn't do it on our own. We had to be God and Christ through the finished work of the cross and His resurrection on that third day. Next, which we're leading up into with that, is for the unsaved. that choice. Obey the Lord or don't I? As for the unsaved, are we willing to believe the Bible? That's hard for some people, isn't it? There's some people that are more willing to put faith in things like evolution than they are God's Word. I feel like it takes more faith to believe evolution than it does the Word of God, because it has been proved over and over with archaeology and all these things of history and study. And so, but yet, sometimes we're unwilling. Are we willing to consider what to do with Jesus? That is a very important question. An unbeliever's life and an unbeliever as well. What are we going to do with this man named Jesus? And we have to be willing. If we're going to try to obey the Lord, even as a lost person, if we're thinking about that, we've got to think about this question. What do we do with Jesus? Are we willing to surrender ourselves to God? Ain't that the kicker? Who in here likes to surrender? Raise your hand. To surrender. No one really likes to surrender, do we? We don't like giving up. We don't like being the loser. What do a lot of us call second place? The what? First loser. Right? We don't like that stuff. We don't like surrendering. We don't like giving in. We don't like losing. But when it comes to God, unfortunately, we're called to surrender. Right? To surrender our ways, to surrender our will, to surrender our desires to Him, because He's got something so much better than what we have. What we can do. His power is greater than our power. We have to surrender to Him. Are we willing to speak about it publicly? Are we willing to make a conscious decision to choose eternal life or choose eternal damnation? Because you're choosing one or the other, right? As a lost person, we're either choosing life or choosing eternal damnation. D.L. Moody, who was the great preacher and evangelist of the 1800s, said this: "There will be no peace in any soul until it is willing to obey the voice of God." So for the lost person, they will never have any peace. We'll never have peace until we are willing to obey the voice of God. And Christian, you won't have peace in your life unless you're obeying the voice of God. So it's important as we try to see that we need to obey Him. And as we obey Him, it may not always be easy, is it? And that's what we're going to see today in the life of Nehemiah, is that it's not always easy to obey the voice of God. Nehemiah was a Jewish man who found himself in a foreign land because his ancestors did not obey God. They were scattered by the Babylonians, right? We know all of this stuff, especially if you come on Wednesday nights where we're studying the book of Daniel. And so then the Medo-Persians, but a lot of people just call them Persians because the Persians were in the Mede part of the nation. The Persians conquered Babylon. And it was under the Persian king Artaxerxes that we find Nehemiah working as the king's cupbearer when he receives terrible news from Jerusalem. And that comes out of verses 2 and 3 of Nehemiah, which says that Hananiah, one of my brethren, came with men from Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews who has escaped, who had survived the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the survivors who are left from the captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. So Jerusalem's in a bad state. I preached on Nehemiah not too long ago, and I kind of showed you the timeline of what was going on. And with this, a little bit before, there's also another book right around the book of Nehemiah called the Book of Ezra. Now, Ezra was a priest, and he had actually gone, had gone right before Nehemiah, and then a man named Zerubbabel had went 80 to 100 years years, maybe 50, I'd have to go back and get it right in my head. But several decades before all this, and they started building the temple. Right? And so they had started building the temple, and they were about completed it at this time. And if you go back to the ones that had went into captivity and were still alive, and they saw this temple versus Solomon's temple, they did what? You remember? When they saw this temple, they cried. Remember? Why did they cry? Because it was nothing. Nothing compared to the grandiose, spectacular vision that was Solomon's temple. And so, this is the same temple that Jesus went into. Now, some people get confused in their minds that there's 3 temples. There's only been 2 temples. The one that God commanded Solomon to build, then it was destroyed, and then 70 years later, He allowed His people to come back under Zerubbabel, and then Ezra and Nehemiah, as they continued to do the work in Jerusalem. They built this temple, which was nothing compared, because they didn't have the resources and everything that Solomon had. And so, but then, as we get up closer to Jesus' time, around the time He had been born, there was a king named Herod the Great. Now, it's not the same Herod that was there at Jesus' death. That would have been one of this Herod's sons. But Herod the Great did a remodel. And he went in and kind of spiffed up the temple. And so, but it's the same temple. There's only been, at this point in time, there's only been 2 temples built. There will be 3, but at this time there's only 2. And so it was, that had been going on, and now we see that the walls are still down, everything's still devastated there in Jerusalem. And at this point, Nehemiah has decisions that he's got to make. Obey the Lord or not obey. To do what is going to be, we're seeing it's placed on his heart or not. And that's where we all find ourselves at times, is we all have that choice to make. Are we going to obey the Lord, or are we going to not obey? So as we start our message here about all that we can expect to find, as we make that decision to say, yes, I'm going to obey you, Lord. Some of the things that we learn through Nehemiah's life, some challenges and obstacles and different things that we may have to face. But it's still worth obeying the Lord. Let's pray. Father, as we come, we thank you for this time. Lord, help us to see what you're telling us through your word, what we need to know. Lord, help us to make the best decisions as we go through life, Lord, to obey you, to figure out what your will is, Lord, through your Holy Spirit, through your word, through your people, and then to act upon it. And to trust in you and rely on you as we do, as you empower us, as Dr. Stanley says, to accomplish what you've put before us. Lord, I pray that you would get all the glory. In your precious name we pray and ask. Amen. So, this can work for a Christian who is obeying the will of the Lord as He gives us to be holy, as He gives us specific things to do, or for a lost person who is trying to obey God's will and seek Him. Right? What's Jeremiah tell us? If you seek me with your whole heart, you will find me. And so, this process can kind of play out in any of those kinds of things as we seek to obey the Lord. So if we're seeking, I'm sorry that we're having issues with the ones in the class, I don't want to get with David. If we are seeking to obey the Lord, first we can expect to be dependent upon prayer. To be dependent upon prayer. If you'll read with me chapter 1 of Nehemiah, verses 4 through 11. So it was, when I heard these words, that I sat down and wept and mourned for many days. I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. And I said, I pray, Lord God of heaven, O great and awesome God, you who keep your covenant and mercy with those who love you and observe your commandments. Please, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open, that you may hear the prayer of your servant, which I pray before you now, day and night, for the children of Israel, your servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against you. Both my father's house and I have sinned. We have acted very corruptly against you, and have not kept the commandments, the statutes, nor the ordinances which you commanded your servant Moses. Remember, I pray, the word that you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and keep my commandments and do them, though some of you were cast out to the farthest part of the heavens, yet I will gather them from there and bring them to the place which I have chosen as my dwelling for my name. Now, these are your servants and your people, whom you have redeemed by your great power and by your strong hand. O Lord, I pray, please let your ear be attentive to the prayer of your servant and to the prayers of your servants who desire to fear your name. And let your servant prosper this day, I pray, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I is the king's cupbearer. So, as we are facing decisions and we are choosing to obey the Lord, if we're seeking to obey the Lord, expect to be dependent upon prayer. What was the first thing he did as soon as he heard it? He mourned and wept and he fasted and prayed. He was heartbroken over what was going on in Jerusalem. In his hometown, so to speak. He may have never been in Jerusalem. He might have been born in captivity, we're not really sure. But it's still the land of his ancestors. And so it broke his heart to know that they're being attacked by these Arab nations that are surrounding them, and they're coming in, people like Sanballat, that you will find out later in this book, and others that are going against these people. Why? Because they're Jews, and they don't like it. They don't want them building Jerusalem back. So, we see that his first action is to pray. One of the things that we need to realize here is his brokenness. He mourns, he weeps as he prays, as he seeks God's will in this. That's the one thing we have to realize. When we're going to make a decision for God, we need to seek his will first. Sometimes with brokenness. Humility even. Because what we have to realize, hopefully, as you look back over your life, whether you've lived a long life or a short life, hopefully you realize that the decisions you made by yourself are almost never work out the way the decisions that God makes in your heart. Right? I mean, I can look back on my life and see that. And so we praying, as we go to God, we depend on prayer. Prayer isn't praying over and over and over until God finally relents and says, I'm going to do what you want, Clay. Bob, you've twisted my arm. Jim, I'm going to listen to you because you won't let hush. Now, he tells us to persevere, and he tells us to keep going in prayer. But guess what prayer is supposed to do? It's not supposed to change God's mind. It's supposed to change whose mind? Mine, yours, ours.
Ours.
As we go to prayer, he is changing our minds. Conforming is the word we use, right? To conform us, to make us like him, to change us into his image. He conforms our minds. He conforms our wills to match his. That's what prayer is for. So we have to notice the brokenness. We also have to see the sincerity. He was deeply sincere about what was going on as he prayed to God. Sometimes we're not sincere enough in our decisions, are we? We're obeying the Lord or not obeying the Lord. Sometimes we're just flippant. We're just like, oh, it's okay. I'll ask forgiveness for that. Right? I'm going to say this or I'm going to do this right now. We justify that stuff, don't we? We do. We justify that stuff in our minds, in our hearts. We're not sincere. He was sincere about what had to be done. He had to realize the ramifications of what he was doing. First of all, he had to go before the king. That's why he ends his prayer the way he did. So that's one ramification. A cupbearer can't be sad in the presence of the king. He could have got killed for that. And then what he was getting ready to do, which is go to the king to ask to go to Jerusalem, right, to take resources and people to build the walls, to protect that city. You know, to go into the king's presence and do that, it's going to take a little bit of guts. He had to know the ramifications, and the king could have not liked it, could have said no, could have killed him for asking. And then he had to know if it said yes, that wasn't going to be the end of the story, that he had to go to Jerusalem, and he had to know because of the people that's going to come against him, it was not going to be fighters to get this done. And so he was sincere. He had thought through what all could possible, and he might not have still known yet everything that's going to happen, but he was sincere as he prayed. We notice that he confessed sins. He confessed his sins, and not just his sins, but the sins of his people. The sins of their ancestors. What got them in the place that they're in to start with. Sometimes we have to do that. Sometimes we have to intercede for us and for our family, for our church family. We have to confess our sins. Why? Because why did he have to confess his people's sins? Because it was a national thing. It was not just affecting Nehemiah, it was affecting Israel, the Jewish people. Nehemiah wanted to obey and please God only. That's what he wanted. Do we get to that point sometimes where that's the only thing we want to do? And he was desperate for God's help. Did you notice the desperateness in his pleas as he asked God to be a part of this and to show him how to do this?
No. What's these?
And he also fasted. Because sometimes praying needs to be assisted by sacrifice. Sacrificing physical, sacrificing for the spiritual. Sometimes we got to prove our sincerity. He proved his sincerity by fasting, by giving up something that sustained him, not a want, but a need. He gave up a need, stating, and through faith, that states that God, I'm depending on you for my sustenance, not this food. Sometimes prayer needs to be assisted with fasting. It's not magic. It just shows God that we're serious. That we are mature spiritually. An immature spiritual person will not fast. But a mature person will. Because they know at times when they, especially big decisions like this one, sometimes you need fasting. Sometimes you need to get the things of this world out of your way so you can hear God clearly before we start acting. So, if we're seeking to obey the Lord, expect to be dependent on prayer. If we're if we're seeking to obey the Lord, expect to have defining moments. Expect to have defining moments. If you'll read with me chapter 2, verses 1 through 6. And it came to pass in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, that I took the wine and gave it to the king. Now I have never been sad in his presence before. Therefore the king said to me, Why is your face sad, since you are not sick? This is nothing but sorrow of heart. So I became dreadfully afraid, and said to the king, May the king live forever. Why should my face not be sad when the city of the place of my father's tombs lies waste, and its gates are burned with fire? Then the king said to me, What do you request? So I prayed to the God of heaven, and I said to the king, If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, I ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's tombs, that I may rebuild it. Then the king said to me, the queen also, sitting beside him, How long will your journey be, and when will you return? So it pleased the king to send me, and I set him a time. So sometimes when we're trying and seeking to obey the Lord, expect to have the defining moments. This was a defining moment in Nehemiah's life. A defining moment. He could have recoiled, he could have acted scared and cowardly, because to go into the presence of the king with a sad demeanor, he said, I became terribly afraid. Why? Because the king could have killed him if you go back into Persian law. And as we've learned in the book of Daniel, as we studied, Persians were a little bit different than some, because once they wrote a law, maybe that law was etched in stone and it would never go off the books, ever. The only thing they could do if they didn't like that law was to write another law, not to change that law, but to fight against it, like in the book of Esther. They couldn't change that the law was written that Haman had the king write, saying on this certain day you can kill the Jews and their whole families. But then the second law was written after Esther talked to the king and Haman was executed. That a law was written to combat that law, stating that the Jews could fight back and kill whoever they wanted, all their family. And so that's how they were able. So that's what you have to realize about Persian law. Is there was no mercy on the face. It was there, and you just had to deal with it. It ain't like our law. We can make amendments and bill of rights, and they can vote things down, and it's very different from how America does things in democracy and dictatorship. And so, but this law, they couldn't come sad into the king's presence. He could have them killed, executed, beheaded, or impaled. That was one of the things they liked to do. You know, it talks about in Esther with Haman that built a gallows and he's hung from it. Well, it ain't like gallows you see in those old Western movies. Mine and Dorothy's, one of our favorite actors is John Wayne. And so, you know, in those movies you see a gallows, it's what? It's a hangman. You're going to hang them with a noose. Well, in the Persian, a gallows was a big long pole with a big pointy end, and they impaled you on it and you laid there until you finally laid it. And so very different than what we think of as a gallows. And so any of that could have happened, right? That's why he was terribly afraid when the king said, you're sad and I know you ain't sick. But then he could have recoiled, he could have frozen his tracks, being afraid of what the king could have brought to him. But notice the faith. And he realized this was the moment God was giving him. He told the king, why shouldn't I be so upset on what's going on back home in the city of my fathers? And then God using that, that's because he'd been praying to God, he'd been seeking God's will, and God was laying it out for him through this circumstance. And he followed God's will, and then he stayed strong in his faith. And then the king, instead of having him killed, persuaded, and so he said, what do you request? Right? What do you request? And so then he laid it out for him. And the king said you can do it. Sometimes we need to make sure we are prayed up before we get into a situation. And then notice what he did before he spoke, verse 5. What did he do? It said, in verse 4. So I prayed to the God of heaven before he ever opened his mouth to ask the king what to do. He prayed again. He'd been praying and fasting for several days. But yet, when he gets in front of the king, he realizes the implications. He realizes the seriousness of this. And he knows that he is incapable, that he is inadequate, but he has a God who is capable, who is more than adequate. And so he prays. We don't know what the prayer is, but I feel like it was something to the effect of, God, give me the words, help me to say this, that your will be done. And then he spoke Too often times, Christians, we shoot off at the mouth long before we've ever thought about it. Or especially before we've ever went to the Lord about it. Can I get an amen? Amen. And it gets us in a whole lot of trouble. I am the poster child for speaking before I think. And speaking before I pray about it. And thought about it. And ask the Lord, what's your take on this? What do you want me to say? You know what? I think we'd stay out of a lot more arguments than we do if we would do that first. Husbands, do you think if after our wife says something to us or tells us to do something, whether she's nice or not, if we would just take a moment to say, like Nehemiah here, so I pray to the God of heaven, Lord, give me the voice to say. Don't let me pull myself. If you think we did that, we'd keep ourselves in a whole lot more trouble than we get ourselves into. I think I would. If I would do that. If I would pray long before, and if I pray during. But we have to realize that we're going to have these defining moments, and sometimes the silliest thing can be the biggest fight, can't you? Because we ain't prayed up, and we're not seeking God's will. And so we let those defining moments pass by instead of following His will, obeying Him during that defining moment as we're trying to obey Him. Next, if we're seeking to obey the Lord, expect opposition. Are you like me sometimes and you think, well, I'm obeying you, Lord. Everything's supposed to be sunshine and roses from here on out. I've decided to obey you and nothing else bad's going to happen, right? That's the way we think sometimes. Is that the way it happens? No. Because you got a lot of people that's against you. Chapter 2, verse 19 through 20 says this. But when Sanballat, the Horonite, Tobiah, the Ammonite official, and Geshem, the Arab, heard of it, they laughed at us and despised us and said, what is this thing that you are doing? Will you rebel against the king? So I answered them and said to them, the God of heaven Himself will prosper us. Therefore, we, His servants, will arise and build. But you have no heritage of right on the moral in Jerusalem. Expect opposition. When we decide that we are going to obey the Lord, we've prayed about it, we've had that defining moment, and we are obeying Him, whatever that is, whether it's general holiness, following His commandments, or if it's a specific thing He's given us to do, like He gave Nehemiah to go and rebuild the wall. Expect opposition. Not everyone is God-fearing and respects His name. Even in Eastern Kentucky. Ain't that something? The Bible does. Right? Even here, not everybody is saved. Not everybody fears God. You know, in the old days, when I was young and before I was alive, no one ever messed with the church building. Hardly. They never vandalized churches or burned them or things of that nature. There's not a lot of fear or respect of God in our country no more. The longer we go, the further away from that Judeo-Christian ethic that we're going. Not that those people were saved then. It's just that there was a respect there. Well, not everybody's like that anymore. No? We got to realize that as we're trying to obey God. Even among God's people, there are those who live in the flesh or are weak in faith. You know, there's times that we're going to take stand for God and we're obeying Him, and there's even going to be opposition from some folks. I think that's something. And the evil one stands in direct opposition to God. And guess what? Just like God does, He uses people too. Not the way God does, but He inspires people to do evil things. And so we have to realize that when we are trying to obey God, we expect opposition. Also, if we're seeking to obey the Lord, expect obstacles. If you read with me in chapter 4, verses 1 through 3 and 7 through 8. Verse 1. But it so happened when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, that he was furious and very indignant and mocked the Jews. And he spoke before his brethren and the army of Samaria and said, What are these feeble Jews doing? Will they fortify themselves? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they complete in a day? Will they revive the stones from the heaps of rubbish stones that are burned? Now Tobiah the Ammonite was beside him and said, Whatever they build, if even a fox goes up on it, he will break down their stone wall. Hear, O God, hear, O our God, for we are despised. Turn their reproach on their own heads, and give them as plunder to a land of captivity. Verse 7. Now it happened when Sanballat, Tobiah, and the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were being restored and the gaps were beginning to be closed, that they became very angry, and all of them conspired to gather to come and attack Jerusalem and create confusion. So, when we're seeking to obey the Lord, expect obstacles. You may be ostracized. You may be mocked. You may feel alone. May be threatened. When you face obstacles in obeying the Lord, you pray, then you deal with it. Right? He started praying in verse 4. So expect obstacles. It ain't also expect opposition. They're going to come against you, and then they're going to put obstacles in your way. They're going to spread rumors. They're going to talk about you. They may not always, but they may. We have to realize that our God's bigger than whatever's coming against us. Just like Nehemiah. Did the wall get built? It did, didn't it? In record time. They had shovel or whatever instrument, tool they were using in one hand, and a what in the other, church? Sword. And they got it done. And they worked in shifts. Because they were willing to obey the Lord. And He provided for them. If we're seeking to obey the Lord, also expect difficulties. I'll just read through some of these. Chapter 2, verse 19, is when Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem mocked Nehemiah. They were mocking him. That's a difficulty, right? Chapter 4, verses 1 through 3, Sanballat and Tobiah mocked him again. Chapter 4, 7 through 23, the enemy threatened a military attack. Chapter 6, 1 through 4, Sanballat and Geshem attempted to lure Nehemiah outside of Jerusalem to Ono. Right? It's a trap. Chapters 6, 5 through 9, chapter 6, verses 5 through 9, Sanballat threatened Nehemiah with false charges. They're going to spread rumors. They're going to take to court sometimes when we're trying to obey the Lord. Difficulties. Chapter 6, verses 10 through 14, Shemaiah, Noadiah, and others were paid to prophesy falsely and discredit Nehemiah. If you don't remember all this stuff, go back and read this book. Nehemiah did some great stuff for God, but he was not without opposition, obstacles, and difficulties. And Tobiah, chapter 6, 17 through 19, Tobiah had spies in Jerusalem and wrote Nehemiah letters in order to frighten him. So all this was going on, right? Yet, he was steadfast in his faith and in his obedience to God. He could have chickened out any time and went back to Babylon, that area, right? He could.
That tree is so cool.
And so, when we are seeking to obey the Lord, expect to be obedient in prayer, expect to have defining moments, expect opposition, expect obstacles, and expect difficulties. But most of all, when we are seeking to obey the Lord, expect God to see you through. You can read the book of Nehemiah for yourself, all these things that we touched on and going on, and you can see God's hand in every step of the way. As he guided Nehemiah and the Jewish people to do his will and for them to obey him. So if we're truly seeking, obeying the Lord, expect God to see us through. Because he will. No matter the opposition, the obstacles, or the difficulties, God will see us through. And that's why we need to obey, church. It's not because it's maybe the best thing in the world's eyes. It's not because it's the easiest thing, because as you noticed with Nehemiah, it wasn't easy, was it? It wasn't easy at all. But if it's God's will, it's the best, whether the world sees it that way or not. And if it's God's will and he wants us to obey it, he is going to empower us to do it, just like Dr. Stanley said. He will get us through it. And just like D.O. Moody said, until we are willing to obey the voice of God, we will not have any rest for our soul. God will convict us and stir up strife in our own heart and mind until we what, church? Until we obey and follow him in that faithful obedience. That's what he wants for his children, is faithful obedience. Not perfection, because he knows we're going to mess it up. But then we have that choice again to obey the Lord or not, and to repent from sin that we have committed, and then to make it right if there's any type of restitution or anything that we need to do. And guess what? If it's involving people, well, no, there's something you have to do to make it right. Whether it's just saying I'm sorry, or there's something else that has to be said or done. So, but we have to realize that it's better to obey the Lord, and that no matter what we have to face, that we need to depend on him in prayer. And he's going to work through our circumstances, those defining moments. And no matter what obstacles, opposition, or difficulties come our way, God will see us through. Every single time. It's just like families that I know. We had a family come here a 3 years ago, the Heinzelmans. If y'all remember, they were going to where? Remember? Iran at that time. And a lot of people, family included, was not happy that they were going to Iran. Why? Because they have 6 kids. And they would be taking those kids with them. And Iran's a very dangerous place for Americans and for Christians. But they decided to follow the Lord. They were obeying God in that decision. And no matter the opposition, the difficulties, the obstacles that came their way, they went. Now they had to come back and go, and different things have gone on since then. Julie gets emails when I ask her that. But they're still following God, no matter how it might look to other people. The safest place you can be is right in the middle of God's Word. And I hope you realize that. Even if it means moving your family to Iran to be missionaries. Now, I'm not saying God's calling you that, but I use that as an example because that's a step, right? That's drastic for a lot of us. Because the Iranians hate us. The Iranians, a lot of them do. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. The ones that control the country do. And so, that's what we have to realize, though, is it's no better place to be than in God's will, obeying the Lord. Because he will be right there with us, empowering us the whole way through. That's right. Father, as we come, we thank you for this time that we get to read your word. Help us, Lord, if we're dealing with any kind of decisions, whether it is holiness and faithfulness or any kind of project or something that you're giving us to do, Lord, that we step out on faith, that we obey you, God. If we're here and we're lost, Lord, and we're dealing with this decision to get saved or not, Lord, empower us, convict us with your Holy Spirit that we make the right decision to choose you, Lord. Lord, help us choose